Thanks, man. Well, I'm going to add to this discussion of Sutra 2.1. It is the same sutra, so there will be some of the same ideas presented, but just just another perspective on what is to take away. When you repeat mantra, you're verbally repeating the vibration of your inner self, of a deity, of God. So you're doing an external task of something that is formless and incredible and powerful. And it's one of those things where this sutra is really asking us, how far are we getting with that? So let me just share some slides that might help us sort of work with this as a concept. Is that showing up for you, Jatila?
Yeah, looks good.
Cool. So we're repeating this mantra of this perfection, yet we're repeating it. And as we've seen in this text, it tells us over and over, like, those are not really mantras, which are only a matter of enunciation. So basically saying, if we were to stay at the level of just repeating a mantra orally, just, the words Om Namah Shivaya, the mantra would be a pretty crude rendering of that potential experience of Shiva. Sort of like every person's, there's the quote, those are not really mantras, which are only a matter of enunciation. So if we stay at that level, it's sort of like every person's first pot, in a pottery class. It's just, they're crude, it's a great amount of effort there, but you're not going to give that one to Babaji yet, and hopefully when, you start a pottery class as an adult, you realize that's a great undertaking, just like people actually doing spiritual practice, it's a big deal. Nobody out there is sitting around really doing a lot of mantra during their day. We are pretty unique people, almost the equivalent of when you go to an adult pottery class, there's probably like 6 people there, normally. It's a lot to like undertake these like things where they start sort of crude and you have to work for something to be beautiful. Because, eventually we all have to start somewhere, but eventually we sort of run out of room, for any more incense burners. It's like at a certain point you have to ask yourself, is this mantra becoming something more beautiful, or is it staying at the level of an incense burner, meaning the pot that you don't know what to do with? So this sutra really helped me throw more pots. It really pushed me to that 10,000 pot rule. I didn't probably do, maybe I did 10,000 mantras during the course of this, but it really pushed me. And I have to say, I'm grateful so grateful that Navaratri happened to fall during this sutra, because I had this perfect 9-day Sankalpa excuse to like do a ton more mantra. And like Jatila was saying, reach for the state of experience. And it really catapulted me into a deeper experience of mantra, transform mantra from being something I might just glaze over an activity, and it really started to integrate the mantra into the activity itself. And the reason it worked and had an effect was because I felt like it was pointing me in the right direction, so that every one of those pots, metaphorically speaking, that I was throwing was really getting me towards the goal. It wasn't just spinning around in circles. And you can tell, the 10,000 pot rule, this is one of Kailasi's urns, and you can just tell, like, wow, we're reaching for something really beautiful. We're reaching for something really refined when we do mantra, and that we really want to, that we can go far beyond the incense burner level of a mantra. So the knowledge of the source of the mantra, it tells us we have to have knowledge of where this mantra is taking us, of its source. The text told us that we need the Shakti. We need Shakti to be present when we do mantra practice. And it told us that all of those, it says that when the energy of Shakti is absent, it says all of those collections of words are useless. And Jatila quoted this earlier, just like a massive clouds in the rainless autumn sky. And the idea here, it's like you ever see some gray clouds like accumulating, and it's sort of the end of the workday, and you're like, oh, the day is coming to a close, and I'm gonna get all cozy in my PJs and just sort of like, this is gonna be really sweet. And then those clouds like never quite accumulate enough to actually produce rain, and then the sun comes out and it gets all hot again, and you're like stuck in your PJs and you just get really hot and bothered. Like that's sort of the experience we're trying to avoid here, is we're trying to really reach for the mantra in such a way that we produce rain, that it makes it rain. Our mantras should make it rain Shakti. Our mantras should make it rain boons and blessings and like experience, and as Babaji says, if it's not, ask yourself if you're doing it right. And that's what this sutra is all about. Basically, essentially, what's happening in this situation is that we're getting stuck in just the first half of the experience of mantra. The idea being that what's missing is the reflective half of it. And to understand this, we have to look back at the introduction to the Shiva Sutras with Jayadeva Singh, where he explains in Kashmir Shaivism that there really are two parts to this cosmic world that we live in. There's Prakasha, which is the eternal light, without which nothing can appear. Prakasha. So this like flashlight that's illuminating from the inside out, illuminating everything in your world. Everything you see right now is illuminated not by the lights above you, but by the light of awareness shining from within you. That's what's illuminating the screen and everything around you. Okay, it's your internal light of awareness. So it's like looking around in the kitchen at night. It's like you can sort of only see what gets illuminated, and your life can soon become sort of this like just sort of a search for one object after the other, and then you're like, there's the peanut butter, like you're in the kitchen looking around. But just being on this search with your light, just going from one object to the next, without the second half of it, is sort of just like eating straight peanut butter. It's something that you can do, but you don't talk about. Like you might take a spoonful of peanut butter, but it's not something you're going to serve at dinner. Okay. But the idea here, and I'll pull this back to a quote to tell you I'm not just joking around, is that Jayadeva Singh says, mere prakasha, just the light, that cannot be the nature of reality. He says, even a diamond is prakasha, but the diamond does not know itself as prakasha. And so if we're walking around without this reflective quality, could be a diamond in front of us, could be a slice of pizza in front of us. We're not really present for the experiences. Life sort of passes us by. He says that Vimarsha is that aspect by which Prakasha knows itself. He says that self-knowledge is an activity. Something that I thought might help explain this is like when you are driving in challenging road conditions, okay? You've got a lot, like your headlights are illuminating just a fraction of what's in front of you, right? And you have to use that information to guide your vehicle. And you're doing two things at once here. You're taking in what's going on the outside while you're simultaneously steering your vehicle on the inside. And that's why, it's a challenging situation, because you're having to take in information while simultaneously directing your energy at the same time. And so this concept of reflecting back inward while engaging externally is an advanced practice. And it is sort of what this sutra is trying to get us to do and to understand, that we can guide ourselves through the storm, so to speak, if we have this reflective awareness. Now in the text it calls it pranava mantra. Pranava mantra is when, this is going to get a little confusing, but stick with it. It's actually quite simple. We actually have already described it. When you come out from the internal world and travel to the external world, and then travel again from the external world back to the internal world, it's said that pranava mantra is truly a mantra. So the idea here is similar to the situation we were just talking about, right? You are, you're in these two worlds at once. You are living your life, you're working, but simultaneously you have an impetus that is drawing you within. And that brings me, to sort of the biggest takeaway for me in this sutra is that it's all about living your life. Mantra is right there with you step for step. You're trying to find that mantra within the activity of your life rather than glazing it over the surface of your activities. And here's what's sort of profound for me is that what I realized is that this inward turn of vimarsha, this inward reflective turn, is itself an activity. It is itself an activity. And this activity of returning your attention inward while engaging outward is the single most important activity that differentiates non-dualism from dualism. Because dualism separates sort of the idea of the inner self, or essentially like perfection, from the muddied world of Maya, of samsara, and they really, there is an eternal separation there. Within non-dualism, this return that's happening throughout it, that return ends up being, this vimarsha, this reflection, ends up being like an activity or a movement that makes reality itself possible as we're describing it. And so, of course, mantra should come with you as you do your life, as you participate in your life. In fact, it can be the experience, it can be the experience you're having of your life. It can literally be with you as chopping the carrot. It can be with you as the taste of a food. It can be with you as your footsteps. The idea that it's separate is a mental construct that is not really proven anywhere. What we see in the text over and over again is that it's the reflection that even makes perception possible. That you're only perceiving a small portion of reality if you don't have this reflection. You're just the flashlight illuminating the peanut butter, but if you were to expand that awareness, you'd see the whole kitchen. So what these texts keep trying to tell us is that don't think that reflection comes after. It doesn't come after you see the thing. Reflection comes simultaneously. It is how you see things. It's how you feel. It's what you're tasting. One little example of this that I can maybe get to conclude with here is, how like sometimes you'll be maybe towards the end of sleeping, and you're maybe in both places at once, like you can sort of hear the room and you're sort of still asleep. The other day, something fell off the bookshelf or something, and it fell and made a noise. Interestingly enough, in my dream, I didn't hear a book fall off and hit the floor, and then what was that? Maybe it was a building falling. No, in my dream, a building fell. A building fell. How is that possible? The sound came, but I only heard it as something, as a building falling. It's not like I heard the sound and then thought, what could that have been? I just heard a building fall. And so that's happening all day long. We think we're seeing something and then cognizing it. And according to what the texts are telling us, not the case. The experience we're having is only as unlimited as our ability to inwardly reflect while having that experience. So Rudy tells us to do what? When we're having ice cream, he says, breathe into your heart when you're eating ice cream. Don't just let it stop at the mouth. Taste it here, but let it open your heart here. He's trying to get us to get to the inward experience of things. And to finish, Swami Muktananda similarly says of this sutra, he says the mantra loses its power if the mantra, the repeater, and the Supreme Lord, who is the goal of the mantra, are kept in three separate compartments. This means if your reality is separate, your external reality is separate from your mantra, from your internal reality. If it's separate, then the mantra never really gains power. You never gain comprehension. So this sutra is asking us to really reach deeper and to try to feel mantra as not something that's on top of your activity, but it is the activity. And that's about all I can say about it, because I feel like it's something that you have to try and try and try, just like the 10,000 pot rule. And then I'm not saying that I'm like there at all, but rather you can get glimpses of like, oh, wow, I can do mantra while I eat and not miss anything. I can do mantra while I watch a movie and still, not still enjoy the movie, but actually enjoy it. And so that's where I'll conclude, which brings me to just a little prompt to consider. Let me see here, one sec. That's coming up later. Well, it looks like my little prompt comes up later, but the idea is live your life, feel your mantra, or is it live your mantra, feel your life? You know, which one comes first, your mantra or your life? That is a good question to ask. So the next time you're in a task, play with that task and ask yourself, what would happen if I prioritized my mantra here? Would I fail at the task? I don't know. Will I miss the movie? I don't know. So that's the question I sort of want to leave you with. Trying to swap that assumption.